We are live. How's it going?
Good, good. I feel like things have gotten things are good and so good it's created like new problems, right? Like um, our active user base now has jumped up in the last couple months, and now we're having new performance problems, right? So it's like that's kind of the new stuff that's going on at the moment. Um, it's all good, but yeah, there's some funny stuff there.
Well, that's an exciting development.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, and it's always I don't know. I enjoy troubleshooting performance stuff, but it's a hog on just resources and brain power to like find some of these things, right? It's like it's really challenging, and it takes you away from doing product development. But obviously, speed is such a feature of what we're trying to do in software in general. So it's totally worth it, but it's a different kind of thought process, obviously, and yeah, it takes me out of improving the product, worrying about how slow a SQL query is.
Right. We've been having this internal debate. You may have seen the threads about this notifications thing. Did you see
Yep.
that?
Got a lot of notifications about it.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, man. Right. So it's kind of interesting is that it reminds me that solving a problem doesn't make problems go away. It might make that problem go away, but it might create other problems. And being conscious of that is important because, you know, you don't, it depends, of course, right? But whack-a-mole can be useful, but you're better off like killing all the moles than like letting one come up and knock one down, one come up, knock one down. So you're better off. It's almost like replace the turf in the dirt
Yeah.
with concrete is kind of almost what you want to do there versus just keep. Because the thing we're talking about internally is there's an issue. Well, not an issue, but Basecamp historically has sent a lot of emails. And with Basecamp 3, one of the big complaints about Basecamp over the years had been like a lot of emails are being sent out of Basecamp. We want fewer emails. So we said, okay, cool. That makes total sense. I get that. So let's make a notification system that is more in-app. Only if you're not in the app might you get an email. But first we're going to go in the app. Then if you're not in the app on the web, then we're going to go to your phone. If you have the app installed on your phone, we're going to send you a push there. And only if you don't have the phone app installed, and only if you're not actively in the app in the browser or on the desktop, will you get an email. So we've cut way back on email sending significantly. However, what's interesting is that there's a good number of people who seem to really want emails no matter what. And the reasons don't matter. It doesn't matter why. It's just that they do, might be because they like an archive of everything in their inbox. Might be because everything else already goes into their inbox. And so it's sort of a place they can search. It doesn't even matter why. They just want emails. So one of the thoughts we had was internally, which was pitched around, was okay. So let's if you don't dismiss a notification on your desktop after 15 seconds, we'll send you an email with that notification to make sure that you've seen it. Because what was happening was some customers were saying, "I'm not getting stuff from Basecamp," and we looked into it, and it turns out they are getting stuff from Basecamp, but they're getting it in Basecamp, and they actually want it out of Basecamp. So we had this idea initially to say, well, let's just make a change. So if you don't respond to the notifications in the app within a certain amount of time, you're going to get an email. And we were about to push that, and we thought we deployed it, but it turns out we didn't. But we thought we did, and then there was a lot of pushback internally about that. And the point was that we could fix the problem for people who are not getting enough emails, but then we might be creating a new problem for people, which is they're sending them too many emails again. And then where are we at? We solved one, we created another, and what's plan C, or plan B even? Do we then, what's the next step? Because we know that we're going to probably hear from those people now who we created a problem for. So are we just going to solve this one thing at a time and eventually make it go quiet? Or are we going to have a comprehensive solution to this and think it through for a moment and figure out what's the best way to deal with this? And it may not be that it's a systematic change. It might just be give people the control to decide what they want to do. So anyway, these are good reminders, because when you have some pain and you think you're extinguishing that pain, if you're just thinking about the local area, that's not the whole body, right? What are you creating new pain by solving that one thing? and what is that doing to the whole organism basically is sort of an important thing to keep in mind, I think. So anyway, that's something we just, to the spirit of the show about like, what are you struggling with? Like, this is something, so I'll just actually, let me go look up that thread. So this thread started at, let me tell you here, it's kind of interesting. So it started at, so Ryan posted a message about this change at about 2 hours ago. And then over the course of an hour and a half or so, let's see, about 8, 9 people chimed in over 2 hours. It's all stored nice and neat in Basecamp. And I can go back and read through the whole thing and refer to it now, which is great. And then there's like history. Why did we make this decision? And who was involved in making the decision? And what did people think about the decision as we went through it? And kind of, support chimed in because they're on the front lines of this. And so it was about an hour and a half. And we decided, it's funny, at the end, it turned out we actually didn't actually deploy this.
Yeah.
We thought we deployed the change, but we didn't. But anyway.
Yeah, we had something similar to kind of what you're saying about how like inventing, solving something solves kind of the local problem, but maybe there's something more systemic to fix or figure out or understand. Like we were getting a lot of complaints. The default task time, we were hearing a lot of customers complain when we were working on tasks a few months ago, more than a few months ago, it was like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we rolled out some changes to how we were doing tasks. We made the menu much nicer and some nice kind of upgraded the UI there a bit. And what was interesting was people were asking for, they were saying things like, what I really want most of the time, it's I think the old default was maybe it was putting, or when we changed it, the default we created for task, the time of a task was at like 5 p.m. the end of the day, because we were figuring like, oh, you would, if you're not going to set a time, the default of 5 p.m. like the end of the work day would be good enough, because you have to set it. If you pick a specific date, you have to pick the way it's engineered at the moment, you have to pick a time. And we were like, well, let's just give them 5 p.m. because it's the end of the day. We got all these people. We got a lot of users complaining about this. And they were like, it's kind of a pain in the ass to have it at 5 p.m. because then you have to like go backwards. And we have this like neat little search UI where you can kind of just start typing in numbers. But because it's starting at 5 p.m., the UI, the little search box thinks you're searching after that. So it was just like, no. I want to start in the morning and go after the morning because my workday goes from 8 to 5, not 5 p.m. and onward. So it was like, oh, okay, that makes total sense. Let's move it to the morning. It makes sense that the default's going to be in the morning when you create a new task and you pick a date. The time is going to be in the morning. And then if you need to set it anytime after the morning, it's easy to look up and you can just go forward. Made a bunch of people happy. Now there's a whole new camp of people who've been emailing us upset about that change because they have a different workflow in which they set a lot of tasks and they don't care about the time at all. They just want to say, on January 30th, this is due. But because now the time is defaulted to 8 a.m., they get an email in the morning that this thing is overdue because their workday starts at 9 a.m. So now it's caused them anxiety that it's like, shit, it's overdue, but really it's not overdue until 5 p.m. today. And it's just like, oh yeah, you're right. Like we didn't understand it deep enough. And now we've like created this new problem that we need to kind of fix. So it's the same thing. We played whack-a-mole. We fixed it, but we didn't go deep enough into it. Now we understand it more. And maybe we have some better solutions on the near to-do list. But that was another example of shit. We fucked it up for some other people when we thought we were fixing it. We're doing a good job.
Something I've been thinking about, I don't know how to institutionalize this necessarily, but is to never present a single scenario for like how this is better. Always present how could it be worse too.
That's true.
Like this is better for this, but how could it be worse? But it also could be worse for someone who's like this. That way, you're just kind of forced into thinking through both sides. Maybe there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 different sides to it, but. Yep. There's actually a book. Gosh, there's a book. So Mercedes, who's our COO, she brought when we were interviewing her, she brought a book in. Let me see. I can't remember the name of the book right now. Maybe I have it in this room somewhere. Shit, I don't. it's something to do with, I'll find out, we'll talk about it next show, but it's something to do with like 7 colors or something, or 6 different colors. And maybe someone out there will know as I start describing this. Actually, let me ping Mercedes in the meantime. Hang on while we're talking about this. Just a second here. Whenever I type fast, I get it wrong. Just a second. So the idea, I'll get the exact title, but the idea was that there's a handful of different ways to look at something. You can like be in support of it. You can be against it. You can be here all the reasons it's good. Here are all the reasons it's bad. Anyway, there's a variety of like ways you can look at it, and a lot of the conflict in groups comes from one person is wearing the red hat, which is like look at all the problems, and the other person is wearing the green hat, which is like look at all the good things. And the idea behind this book, or the idea is that what you actually want to do is you want to make sure everyone's wearing the same hat at the same time. Then we can all switch hats together. So we can all talk about what's good about this thing together. So we're not battling. We don't have different things in our minds right at the beginning. We're like, let's talk about what's good about this. Then let's all now talk about what's bad about this. Now let's all talk about this and let's talk about that. And I thought it's a really cool system, and we haven't really played around with it so much yet. But
it is interesting.
It's so much. The premise is that if everyone around the table is wearing different hats or different colors, whatever this is called, you're not talking about the same thing, because someone's always trying to poke a hole and someone else is trying to show how good it is. Now you're arguing versus discovering and exploring.
Right.
And there's a time to argue also. I think there's a time at the end where like everyone takes on their own opinion again, or their own position again, and then you argue it out, but you've already sort of looked at it from all the different perspectives together, which I think was a really cool thing. So if this book comes back through, if Mercedes gets back to me, I'll share it. If not, I'll share it in another show. But
6 Thinking Hats.
Let me see if that's it.
Lynette. We know that, Lynette.
Oh.
She thinks it's 6 Thinking Hats, maybe, is the book.
I'll tell you if I can see the cover. Amazon.
Yeah, there's 6 colored hats on the cover, it looks like.
That's it.
From the DeBono group?
That's the one.
Cool.
Yeah, so she really recommended this. Okay, so everyone wears the white hat, which is neutral and objective, concerned with facts and figures. So everyone talks about the data, basically. The next hat's like red hat, which is the emotional view. How is everyone going to feel about this emotionally? Black hat, careful and cautious. The devil's advocate hat. Yellow hat, sunny and positive. Green hat, associated with fertile growth, creativity, new ideas. Blue hat, cool, the color of the sky. Above everything else, the organizing hat. Anyway, point is everyone's got to be wearing the same hat at the same time to have a good, thorough discussion. And then you can all put your own hats back on at the end. But it's not like digging in and saying, no, this is not, I'm the whole poker constantly. Like that's not a great way to make progress. So
because anyway, I think we all, I love it. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So anyway, she gave us that book and we haven't read it yet, but I like the thought quite a bit. That'd be really helpful, I think, because I see this happening all the time. Someone just digs in and like you dig in and then you're just not listening anymore. And we've all done it. I do it, so anyway.
Yeah. And the arguments are important, but I mean, I think it
very important.
People feel marginalized or they feel alienated or whatever when they're always the devil's advocate, when it's just like, well, maybe we should all be the devil's advocate sometime, at one point together collaboratively versus one person in the room having to feel like they're the ones who have to argue with everybody else. It's very interesting.
That's very true. That's actually happening in another situation here, which is that, when you know that someone you're talking to is always the person who's going to push back because you're presenting an idea to them. Like if you're presenting an idea to somebody, the person who's receiving the idea is likely going to be the first person to push back. And if that's the case all the time, in your head you become to think like that's the pushback person. So we're going to go into the situation and someone's going to push back. They're going to push back, and you create this like drama in your head about what this interaction is going to look like. And I think it's good to say, this is not the moment to push back. Let's look at the opportunities here. What are the ideas? Instead of like, here are all the problems. Well, let's go into problem solving mode. Let's say we decided we were going to do this. What creative solutions can we come up with to make this work? And then let's go. All right. we have some of those. Now let's go into devil's advocate stuff. Why would this not be worth doing? Why is this not going to be a good idea? Anyway, that line of thinking I think is really cool.
Yeah.
My battery's going to die. I'm just going to switch rooms really quick because I got to get a plug. I don't know where you are. Okay, let's see.
I'm at the end.
Okay. You want to take a couple questions, then we can call it a day because we kind of talked about making this one a relatively quick one. Let's take this first one. What's going on with Know Your Company? I see the color is kind of weird in here, but hopefully people will be fine. Know Your Company is doing really nice. It's doing well. It's Know Your Company is a product we made. I don't even know when we released it, a year and a half ago or so, I think. And it's a product that was designed primarily for me, actually, which is the CEO of a company that had grown to more than 30 people. And I realized that I wasn't really sure if I knew my company anymore. I wasn't sure what was on people's minds. I wasn't sure how people felt about the direction we were going in. I wasn't sure if people had ideas they weren't expressing. I wasn't sure what they were holding in their heads and weren't willing to share, get out, right? So we built this product that asks the company a series of questions every week. They're different every week about, it could be things like, are we dropping the ball on anything recently? Are there promises we made that we haven't kept? Could be, are there things we should be doing this year that we're not doing? It could be, how are our benefits any good? Have you heard, whatever they could be. And you can make them up. It comes preloaded with 52 and you can make them up. And it's really awesome because all of a sudden information comes flowing back at you. Information that people always had in their heads, but they were not willing to share just because they weren't asked about it. And the truth is that if you want answers, you have to ask questions. You're not just going to get answers. So some people, of course, are forthcoming and share everything. And most people do not. They don't know when they should share, if they should share, or if it's important to share, or they have it in their head, but they don't think it's important enough to even mention. So we built this product called Know Your Company, and then we spun it off into a separate company. So now Claire Liu, who works out of our office, is the CEO over at Know Your Company, and she runs it, and she's a developer working with her now. And I
just dumped her Twitter here into the sidebar, Claire.
Thank you. And here, we'll put Know Your Company in here too. And it's sold in a very sort of hands-on way. You have to get a demo. You cannot just sign up. It's not self-service. You have to get a demo by a person. So Claire gives all the demos. And it's a very, very hands-on, very specific product. It's doing really well. It has a very unique business model, profitable business, bootstrap, the whole thing. It's great. So that's what's going on with Know Your Company. And they've made some really great updates to it over the past year. I really like what kind of product. It's a very, very cool, very specific product. I love the way it looks too. I love the way it works. It's just, there's something really special about how tight it is. So I like that a lot.
And I encourage everybody to follow Claire on Twitter. She's very interesting. Every time I'm so impressed by her. Every time I talk to her, I'm just impressed. Like, she is one of those people who knows everybody, it seems. Like, she has a way of just networking more than I can imagine accomplishing. I don't know how she does it. She's reminds me of Harper Reed is another one who's very good at this. Just knows everybody and is really good at being able to reach out and keep a lot of connections and be friendly with a lot of people. And yeah, she's cool.
Cool. Well, I think we should call it today.
Cool.
We got something coming up at 4. So sorry for being a bit short today, everybody, but thanks for coming in. Seems like we had a pretty nice turnout. We'll record. This has been recorded, so we'll pop it up on YouTube like all the other ones. And hey, by the way, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me get our YouTube channel for everybody. Let's see.
I can dump it. I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that way you will know when there's new shows.
Like your URL is clean. Mine is a complete mess.
I use the fancy one. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
either one will work.
So, yeah, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. When we post new videos there, that you will get a notification. I suspect is sort of how it works. I'm not entirely sure, but also if you're new to the show, you can go there and watch a bunch of back shows, back topics. We've talked about a whole bunch of things over the past 60 some odd shows now. So maybe 70. I'm not sure. And that's that. So hey, thanks so much, everybody. We'll catch you Monday.
Have an awesome weekend, everyone.
Later.